but I'm sure very few would remember it. So if you'll turn to chapter 22, just to get an idea of how the average Jew at that time felt about Gentiles. Now you want to remember, the Jews were steeped in all this. They were steeped in the covenant God gave to Abraham. They were steeped in the law that God had given to Moses. And even though they didn't understand much of it, yet they did realize that they were a chosen covenant people and that the Gentiles had no part in that relationship. All right, now in chapter 22 of Acts 15, where Paul, as we now call him, is addressing again a tremendous Jewish crowd there in Jerusalem. And he's explaining as best he can to his Jewish cohorts how that God had showed him who Jesus was, and he rehashes again his conversion experience. And now he comes down to verse 17 and he says, "And it came to pass that when I was come again to Jerusalem, even while I prayed in the temple, I was in a trance. And I saw him," that is Jesus, "saying unto me, Make haste, get thee quickly out of Jerusalem, for they, the Jew, will not receive thy testimony concerning me." But Paul says, I responded to the Lord by saying, "They know that I imprisoned and beat in every synagogue them that believed on thee. And when the blood of thy martyr Stephen was shed, I also was standing by and consenting unto his death, and kept the raiment of them that slew him. But he said unto me," Jesus now responds to Paul, "Depart, get out of Jerusalem, for I will send thee far hence unto the Gentiles." And now look at the next verse. "And they gave him audience," they listened to him, "unto this word." What word? Gentile. "And when he as much as breathed the word Gentile, they lifted up their voices, and they said, Away with such a fellow from the earth, it's not fit that he should live." Now that was the mentality of the Jews of that day. And see, they weren't all that far wrong. We'll look at a verse in Ephesians. I haven't got time right now, but we're going to be looking at it in, if not this program, the next one. So come back with me, if you will, now to Acts chapter 9. Acts chapter 9. Now, of course, Saul ends up under the roof, I think, of Ananias. And verse 17, "Ananias went his way and entered into the house, and putting his hands on him, he said, Brother Saul, the Lord, even Jesus, that appeared to thee in the way as thou camest, has sent me that thou mightest receive thy sight and be filled with the Holy Spirit." And then verse 18, "Immediately there fell from his eyes that had been scales, and he received sight forthwith, arose, was baptized." And that was, of course, right in line with the Jewish program that began with John the Baptist, you remember. And then he received food. And now verse 20, "And straightway he preached Christ" where? In the synagogue. He didn't go out into the Gentile marketplace and approach Gentiles. He goes to the synagogue. He's still Jew only. "And he preaches Christ, that he is the Son of God." Now watch it carefully. "He preaches Christ as the Son of God, who died for me and rose from the dead." It's not what it says, is it? Oh, that's what a lot of people think it should say. But does Paul or Saul here know anything of a gospel based on death and resurrection? No. Now, just to show you how this was in perfect alignment with that which has been on the scene now ever since Christ's first appearance, or even John the Baptist, go back with me to Matthew's Gospel, chapter 16. Matthew 16. And now we've had Christ almost finishing his 3 years of earthly ministry. The 12 have been with him almost constantly. And it's about time to go up to Jerusalem and be approached for the crucifixion. But now they're still up there in the area of Caesarea Philippi, north of Jerusalem. Verse 13. "And so when Jesus came to the coast or the borders of Caesarea Philippi, he asked his disciples, saying, Whom do men say that I, the Son of Man, am? Verse 14, and they said, well, some say you're John the Baptist, some that you're Elias, others that you're Jeremiah or one. Now in Acts chapter 8,